Your task this term is to make an interactive story. This story can be a choose your own adventure story. It could also be an info text story. That's completely up to you. To get started, we choose a stage. Once we've chosen the stage, if we go to the right hand side over here, you'll find there's a background color. Now I'm just going to choose a light blue. The next thing that we need to do on this, the layer that's been created is called layer 1. We're going to rename that. We're going to call that the story layer. We're going to go down here to another, add a new layer, drop that one in, double click, rename. This layer is the actions layer. You now have two layers. One's an action layer, the other one is a story layer. I'm going to drag the drag bar along here, and I'm going to drop in at frame 150. I'm going to hold down my control button. If you're in a Mac lab, if you're in a PC lab, it'll be a right mouse click, and we're going to insert a keyframe there. That means that we're going to insert now 150 frames on the actions layer. We'll repeat that now and insert a frame. That will give us 150 frames on the story layer. In frame number 1 of the story, we're going to click in the story layer, frame 1, control click, and we're going to insert a keyframe. Go to 25, insert a keyframe, 50, insert a keyframe, 75. You'll notice there's a slider bar under here that will help you navigate through there. 100, insert a keyframe, 125, and 150. At any time you can continue this, add in more frames, but for now that's exactly the number of frames that we need. Let's go back to frame 1 and make sure that you're clicking in the story layer. This is going to be your title slide. Click on the text tool. You can choose a color, font size. Over here you can choose a variety of fonts, styles, and that's something that you can do creatively later. But for now we're just going to choose a color. I'll choose the yellow, and we're on the text tool. Make sure when you're on the text tool you're coming up here and you're on the static text type. Click, put a title, and mine is called My Amazing World Adventure. You may think that I'm travelling around the world, but actually all I'm going to do is head down the Gold Coast and travel through a few of the worlds. The next thing that we need to know on your first slide, put another text frame. It's great to always have your name on the first frame. Once you've done that, click File, Save. The first time you save, it's going to prompt you for a save title. Now this can be a working title. By a working title, it's the same as in the movies where you think of a title, and this title may change over time, but you need a title just to get started. So mine's called My Amazing World Adventure. And I've created a World Adventure folder. I have some resources that I've dropped in there, but if you could just create a folder where all your resources are going to sit, that's fantastic. Okay, that was stage 1. Easily done. We're into stage 2, so much to do. Click on frame 25. When you're on 25, grab the red playhead, drag it back, and you can see if you scrub back, you're on frame 1, which is your title frame. Bring it over to frame 25. Because I'm heading into the worlds, the first world that I think I'll head to today is Dream World. Click away. I'm going to go over to frame 50, and in frame 50 I think I might go to SeaWorld. That noise in the background is my little dog scratching. Okay, frame 75. What are we going to do on frame 75? Change the SeaWorld to let's go wet and wild. Wet and wild. Okay, so we've got a few different frames here. It's really hard to see what they are, but if we click on the frame, over on the right hand side, in the properties, make sure you're in properties, not library. In the properties you can see there's a label and you can enter some text in there. So I'm going to call this my intro slide. So I know that's the introduction to the story, and hit enter. I'm going to click away. I'm going to click on here, intro slide. If I go over to frame 25, the label I want for there is Dream World. Next one, Wet and Wild. Wet and Wild. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how you spell that, but I'm sure that will do for now. We better do the right thing and put a capital in there. So we've now got Wet and Wild. Let's label in the frames. Frame 75, we've been to Dream World, Wet and Wild. Hey, let's not waste any time. Let's go to Movie World. Hit enter. Movie World's there. And the last frame, so we've got Dream World, Wet and Wild, Movie World. I guess the last one has got to be SeaWorld. Okay, so if we click on the frame, we need the SeaWorld name up here. My next task, this is task number 3, is to make each one of these worlds really distinctive from the others. So what I'm going to do for that, I've actually saved some images. So we're on Dream World. So what I'm going to do in Dream World is I'm going to click on Flash, File, Import, and I'm going to import things to the library because they're going to stay in there and I can use them later. So I'm importing to the library, and my first one is Dream World. So I'm going to import Dream World. If I click on my library on the right hand side now, you can see there's a Dream World JPEG. Just going to import a few more. So it's import to library. I'm going to bring in a Movie World. Repeat the process. SeaWorld. Wet and Wild. These images will really help me to understand how to navigate between frames in the Flash project. So for Dream World, I just go to my library now. I'm going to drop it in. I can use my free transform tool to size it, move it, rearrange it, I'm going to make it fairly large and impressive, so it's fairly obvious that we're in Dreamworld. Click on Wet and Wild, bring in a selected images for there, free transform, locate that, SeaWorld, there's Free Willy, hi Free Willy. And my last one is Movie World. Okay, I just grabbed a logo for Movie World. So if I grab my scrubber bar now, you can see at frame 1, I'm in my Amazing World Adventure. 25, I'm off to Dreamworld. 50 off to Wet and Wild. 75 to SeaWorld. And Movie World wraps up the journey for the day. At this stage, I'll always save. I'm going back to frame 1, which is the start of my adventure. And what I need to do now is create a button so that I can start my adventure. The button that I'm going to create to start off with is a button that takes me to Dreamworld. So I'm going to choose the rectangle tool. You notice there's 2 different types in the rectangle tool. If you're using CS6, you might not have all of these options, but today I'm going to choose the rectangle tool. Once I choose it, if I go to properties, you can see that this is where my fill and stroke colors are controlled. Because my text is yellow, let's choose a color that's a little different. Okay, we might choose a lilac. Navigate to my first world, Dreamworld. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. Over here you can see the stroke is black, the fill is blue. We need to change that before we draw the rectangle. I'll choose a nice lilac. You can always check down here, stroke color, fill color. Draw a rectangle. Once you've done that, choose the text tool. Make sure that you're choosing the static text. Static means it's staying still, not going anywhere. You've got 2 other choices, dynamic text and input text. Because I've got a pink button, I need to really think about the color. We need a color that contrasts quite well with pink. I'll go for black at this stage. There are a lot of choices in your font families. You can also adjust the size here. And this one is the letter spacing, and that's being able to spread it out. Leave that for now. So you've got the text tool. If you click inside the box, you'll get a size of a text, and you'll see from that 40 is probably a little large. So we'll just adjust that down to 30. Hit enter, grab back to my pointer tool. Oh, I've lost it. I'll just bring it back in. And the first world we're going to is Dreamworld. Once you've created the text, go to the pointer tool, drag it in. If you think that it's not quite the correct size, I'll bring that down to 25. Okay, grab the pointer tool again. Make sure that the label is clearly in the center of the button. Now that you've created what we're going to turn into a button, we need first to convert it to a symbol. To convert to a symbol, you need to go to Selection tool. Just draw a select square around it. Go up to Modify, Convert to Symbol. Now, we need to really think about these buttons because they're going to navigate through. So think of it at the start, make it simple, but a name that you're going to recognize in a really complex layer of code. So the symbol I'm creating is Dreamworld. You can see over here it now has properties. This little section in here is the instance name, and I want the instance to also be really recognizable, so I'm just going to call that Dreamworld. Once you've done that, File and Save. If I'm going to use this button to click to Dreamworld, what I need to do now is create a button that will interact, change color when I mouse over it, change to another color as I click on it, and then it's going. The version of Camtasia and Flash Action scripting that I'm using is the Creative Cloud version. You may well be working on the CS6 version, in which case a couple of these instructions will be a little different. We're going to now select Dreamworld, go up to the Action Scripting panel, click on frame number 1, drop down the window, we're going to go to Code Snippets. Code Snippets are little pieces of code that amazing programmers have created, and they're going to save you a lot of time. Today we're going to Action Script, we'll drop that down. We're going to Timeline Navigation, drop that down. And the snippet that we're going to choose today is click to go to frame and stop. If I double click this, it's saying this action requires an object to be selected on the stage. What that's telling me is that unless I explain exactly what I want the script to be attached to, it doesn't know where to put it. So we're going to click OK, click there, click to frame and stop, and now you can see that an Actions panel has come up. Alright, this is looking pretty good. I'll just close my code snippets. At the top of the frame, it gives some instructions, and these are all written in light grey. It's saying that you can use this on a main timeline or in movie clip timelines. The instruction of the code is, it's a great code, but you need to replace the number 5 in the code with the frame number that you would like it to play. Now, we really want it to go to the Dreamworld frame, and if I click over here on my timeline, I can see my frame for Dreamworld is 25. Actually looks like 26, but we'll just check that as we go. So in the Dreamworld, it's saying add an event listener. An event listener is telling the program to listen out, and when there's a mouse event, and that mouse event is a click, what it wants you to do is go to the click to go to and stop frame. The function is click to go to and stop at frame. It's a mouse event, and it's telling you in the code, in those curly brackets, to go and stop at frame 5. Now we know that we put Dreamworld on frame 25, so we're going to click there, and that completes our code. We're going to delete all of these commenting slides, commenting codes. Commenting codes are in pale grey. We want our program to stop when it gets to Dreamworld. The default of Flash is that it flows along the timeline till it gets to the very end, and then it loops and comes back again and back again and back again. So if this is happening on your screen, you'll know that you haven't popped in a stop button. So the stop button goes right at the top of your code. On line 1, type in stop, open bracket. You'll notice the bracket just went red. Close bracket goes blue. That's good. And then it's a semicolon. A semicolon in computer code is the end of a line. In English, the end of a line is usually a sentence, but for now, in coding, it's a semicolon. At this stage, I recommend that you save. And now we're going to go to Control and test our movie. To test a movie, go up to Control, drop it down to Test Movie, and I'm using in Flash Professional. I'm just using a 30-day trial of this, and I'm really enjoying this. So click in Flash Professional. It converts it to a SWF file. See this SWF file? Okay. When we create it in Flash, it's an .fla Flash file. When we convert it, it's an SWF file. The big test now is, if I click on this button, is something going to change? Is this button going to jump me to frame 25 and Dreamworld? You can see I've got a mouse pointer. As I drop it over the button, I've got a hand, so that's looking promising, and when I click on it, Dreamworld comes up. At this stage, you should be pretty happy with that, and close out of it and File, Save. At the moment, we've got a Dreamworld, and we've actually attached the code snippet to the symbol that we've created of Dreamworld. What we're going to do now is turn Dreamworld into an authentic button. To do that, we double click on Dreamworld. It brings up another layer. Now you can notice you're in scene 1, and now you're in a button, and that button is called Dreamworld. A button has 4 different states. The first state is up. So that's the button before you touch it. The next stage is over. We're going to create a keyframe in over. In over, this is indicating what we'd like to happen as we mouse over the button. So what you need your operator to do, your game player, is you want them to know that as they mouse over, they're going to get a different color that explains to them that this is an active button. So we're going to go to the fill, and we might change the fill to green. Then we're going to go to down, insert another keyframe. This is what's going to happen as we click and release. We'll go change that to a new fill color, and that might be a lilac. And the last stage in a button is a hit button. We insert a keyframe on the hit button, go back to our selection tool, which is top left, it's the black arrow. Draw a little frame around the button you want your players to click on, but don't just choose the frame. Give them a little bit of extra real estate or free area so that it's nice and easy for them to click on the frame. Once you've done that, you've created your up, over, green, down, purple, and the hit area. Now the hit area is invisible at this stage. If you're happy with that, make sure that you save, and we'll go back to scene 1. What we can see now with our button, if we go to Control, Test Movie, it converts it to a SWF. As I come down near the Dreamworld button, turns into a button, changes to the green, now purple as I click it, and there we are, we've jumped to Dreamworld. You'll notice that the button didn't have the text on it. We're going to go back and finish that now. To make sure that we have text on the button, double click, which brings us into the button states. On the first state, button up, Dream World, easily visible. When we change it to over, what you'll find is you've changed the button area to green, but you've also changed the text to green. So if we go to the pointer tool, come down and click here. Oh, sorry, go to the text tool, come down here. And there we are, just as we predicted. Dream World is in green on a green background. Totally invisible. Let's highlight Dream World, come over to the properties, change it to black, go to the down button, exactly the same thing, go to the text button, purple text on purple, not a great idea, change that to black. And the hit area we don't have to touch. Remember that the hit area is not visible at this stage. The only way that you can know it's a hit area is if you come over, as you go near the hit area, you get that little crosshair attached to the bottom of the Dream World button. Once you've done something that you think is valuable, make sure you save. Really good practice. Let's test our button again now. To test out, go to Control, Test Movie. Creates a Swift file, come down. As soon as I go near the Dream World, there we go. We've got the mouse over, so the over green's working. If we click, we get purple. And when we release in that hit area, it takes us to Dream World. Another perfect stage completed. Our title slide is working and allows the button to move. Let's go on to Dream World. Click on Dream World. We now need to create another button that takes us on to Wet and Wild. So we'll repeat the button procedure. So it's rectangle tool, choose a fill, make sure it's something that's easily contrastable, draw a rectangle, go back, choose text. In the properties of text, make sure it's static. Choose an easily contrastable color. Our next world is Wet and Wild. At the moment the text is too large. Highlight the text, change it, drop it down to 20. Should fit inside that rectangle. Go to the pointer tool, select it, drop it inside. Go back to the pointer tool, select around the area of your button, modify, convert to symbol. The symbol, make it a nice easy name, Wet and Wild. Now I think I had capitals, so let's keep the capitals and the lowercase going together. It's a button, and the registration, that's the axis that it would rotate on. Make sure that that's in the center. Press OK. Click in the Actions layer of frame 25. Double click on the button. We've got an up state of green. Control click on a Mac or right mouse click on a PC. Insert a keyframe. This keyframe is the over, where we're going to mouse over it. What we need to do is change our fill color there. Mouse over it, might go a light yellow. Now we're on the down. Insert a keyframe on the down. Give it one more color. Purple. Hit area, insert the keyframe. In the hit area, make sure that you locate the entire area of the button and a little bit of real estate around the outside to make sure that that's an easily hittable area. Once you've done that, happy with that, press save, go back to scene 1. You now have Dream World with an active button that's going to take you to Wet n Wild. So now that Wet n Wild is a button, click on Dream World, click in the Actions pane. You can either go to Window, Actions, or your alternate is over here, Actions, which takes you back to the one before. So we'll just go to Window, Code Snippets, we're on the Dream World frame now, and we need to give some action scripting to the Wet n Wild button. We let it know it's the Wet n Wild button and it's on frame 25. We're going to go to Window, Code Snippets, Action Scripting, Timeline Navigation, go to Frame and Stop. You'll see there's a lot of different types of buttons already coded for you. Go to Frame and Play. This would work really well if you had an animation on the next frame you wanted to go to. Go to the next frame and stop, could be part of a choose your own adventure. It could also be the back button if you made a mistake and wanted to go back to a different world. Go to the next scene and play is a totally different part of your story. Same with previous scene, and go to scene and play. But for now we're going to go to frame and stop. This action requires an object to be selected on the stage. Click the object, go to frame and stop. The selected instance requires an instance name. Now Flash creates an instance name for you, but it's much better if you can create that instance name yourself. So I'm going to go cancel here. In the instance name, I'm going to keep that naming procedure going well. I think Wet n Wild. That's the instance of the button. Click to frame and stop. There's our code. When we look inside the code, we've got Wet n Wild. It's adding an event listener and it's a mouse click. Then it wants to go to a frame and stop. Now, if we close our code snippet, go to our timeline, we're going to Wet n Wild, and if we check Wet n Wild, it's on frame 50. So in our actions, down the bottom, go to and stop, make sure that says frame 50. The other thing that you need to do with the code is go up to the top, delete all of these they're commenting codes, delete those, make sure that you put in a stop button, open parentheses, close parentheses, and a semicolon. Once you're happy with that, let's save that. Control, test movie. Let's see how we go now in our test movie. Okay, good start. We started at Dream World. Mouse over, it's working. Click, off to Dream World. Come down to the Dream World button. Okay, you can see what we've left out. We changed the button, we didn't change the font. We need to go back and do that for that button, but let's see if it clicks and takes us to Wet n Wild. Okay, we're in business, Wet n Wild. Close that. Files, we've already saved, so save this grayed out. In the Wet n Wild button, we need to double click on it. Click in here on the... We're going to work now on the button in Wet n Wild. So in the up state, we were happy with that. It was black on green. On the over state, we changed it to a creamy yellow. Go to the text tool in that box. Make sure you change the font color to black, nice contrast. In the down button, repeat that, purple on purple, change that, font color black, and the hit area is not something that needs a text button. Happy with that? File, save, go back to scene 1, control, test movie. Okay, mouse over's working, Dream World, Wet and Wild. You can see the mouse over. Let's go back again. We've got the upstate, mouse over, click, and then the hit takes us to Wet and Wild. Working perfectly at this stage. No need to save. The next place that we need to go to from Wet and Wild, we need to move it on to SeaWorld. So repeat the same procedure, rectangle tool, drop it in, text tool, static text, contrast color. We're going to SeaWorld, text tool, drag it inside the box, convert it to a symbol by drawing around it. Don't touch that image. Actually, I might just move the, see how SeaWorld and the image are attached. I'm going to go edit, undo, and undo the selection rectangle. Move the image away so that when I select this area, I'm in no way connecting it with another element on the page. Sounds a bit like MasterChef. We've selected it. We have to go to Modify and Convert to Symbol. Now, new symbol. Try and follow that same naming pattern. It's a button. Press OK. You can now see if we go to the library, we've got a Dreamworld button, a Dreamworld image, Movie World image, SeaWorld button, SeaWorld image, Wet and Wild button, Wet and Wild JPEG. We have the button, double click on it. Let's get into the button states. Up stays the same, over needs a keyframe, and also a change of color in the fill. So it's purple, let's go to pink. Down is when you're actually clicking on it, insert a keyframe. Might go green for go here. The hit area, keyframe. Identify a hit area, make sure you are friendly to your users, create that. Go back to save, scene 1, control, test movie, here we go. Can we move through the worlds? Start Dream World to Wet and Wild. Wet and Wild, we've done the same thing with that button, click it. Okay, Wet and Wild is not going anywhere. The reason that it's not going anywhere is we haven't dropped the action scripting in. So let's select the SeaWorld, come up into frame 50, window, actions, code snippets, beg your pardon, code snippets. It's in your timeline navigation and you want to click to a frame and stop. It's asking you to select it on the stage. Select, go to frame and stop. It requires an instance. Flash will create an instance name. If you get there, cancel that. Go to the properties, change your instance name yourself so that it becomes the one you want. Now the instance we want is SeaWorld. It's a button, there's the instance of SeaWorld. Go to next frame and stop. Okay, all of our codes come in. Nice easy snippet of code. If we click away, all of the commenting is in grey. Let's remove that. Put a stop frame in here so that we don't have any looping, followed by a colon. Happy with that. File, save. Close the code snippet. Control, test movie. Okay, let's see how we go. Dreamworld, check. Wet and Wild, check. We didn't change that button, but Wet and Wild, it takes us not to a place that we thought we were going. If we check this, we'll close this. Let's go to our timeline. Let's have a look. We've got Movie World here, but I suspect it's on frame 99. So I'm going to click just before here, right mouse click. I'm going to insert an extra frame, takes it to 100. File, save, control, test movie. Dreamworld, Wet and Wild. Still not quite there. I need to work on that a little more. Okay, we've already saved it. We'll stop the movie now and I'll solve the next problem. When we go and check our code, we've got the stop button in. Perfect. SeaWorld, Add Event Listener, all looking really good. But if we have a look here, go to and stop, the default is frame 5. We want to go to SeaWorld. If we look on the timeline, SeaWorld is on 75. So we really need to go back to the actions, click and go stop, 75. So it's on frame 75. Let's save that now. Control, test movie, Dreamworld, Wet and Wild, Wet and Wild, and now we get to SeaWorld. So I think you've got the drift of the buttons. It's a matter of checking your timeline, checking your storyline, making sure in the actions folder that you can see the little tiny A, that's the action folder, the action scripting, and you can keep creating more and more frames to outline your choose your own adventure. Good luck with your project, and I look forward to seeing some amazing projects very soon.